Welcome to our last interactive whiteboard on muscles. I just wanted to do a bit of a review with you on antagonistic pairs because I know some of you had a few questions. So for example, if we're looking at the motion of elbow flexion, so that's bringing your hand closer to your shoulder, your prime mover, the one that's actually flexing, is your bicep brachii. And then every agonist has an antagonist, so something doing the opposite motion. It kind of counteracts what you're doing. So the opposite of the bicep is the tricep. As you look at shoulder abduction, moving your arms out in front of you and raising them up, your deltoid is the prime mover. So if you could all take a second now and just put your hand, your left hand on your right shoulder. As you raise that arm up, you can feel your deltoid starting to flex. But if you were to put your hand on your latissimus dorsi, just under your armpit, you would see that it's not moving at all, and that's your antagonist. If you look at medial shoulder rotation, so if you put your hand on your pec muscle, left hand, right pec, and you internally rotate your shoulder. So you take that shoulder, say if your hand's in supinated position, and then you rotate it so that your thumb becomes closer to your midline, you can feel your pec start to flex. The opposite to pec major is infraspinatus. So kind of in the same spot, but at the posterior side. Knee extension. Everyone mixes up knee extension and knee flexion. Knee extension, so I'm going to put my leg out straight in front of me, like I was doing a leg press in the weight room. The prime mover for knee extension is your quadricep muscle. So if I were to go in and press my leg straight out, it's going to be my quadricep muscle. That's going to be my prime mover. Whereas my hamstrings, which are at the back, are my antagonist. Wrist flexion is flexor carpi radialis. Opposite of flexion is extension, so extensor carpi radialis. Dorsiflexion, so putting my toes closer to my shin bone. And as soon as I do that, my tibialis anterior works. Whereas if I do plantar flexion, planting my foot into the ground, it's my gastrocnemius. Trunk flexion, so taking my hips, moving my body forward, kind of folding in half. Rectus abdominis, whereas the opposite to my rectus abdominis is my erector spinae group, or some people say spinae. Hip flexion is my iliac psoas, and then the opposite of that is my gluteus maximus. Just to take a closer look at origin, function, insertion, because in your workbook right now you're filling out the muscles, but you're also not only coloring them, you should be filling out where the muscle originates, where it inserts, and what its function is. So is it a flexor? Is it an extensor? Is it an abductor? What's it doing? So origin is where the muscle attaches to, and it's the least movable area. So where that muscle originates is not moving at all. Where it inserts is the distal attachment, and that's where it's most movable. Function is what the muscle's doing when it's activated. So for example, a bicep curl is elbow flexion. If you have a concentric movement, then your muscle's shortening. So for a bicep curl, you're now going to take that arm and you're going to move it closer to the body. If it's eccentric, you're lengthening it and moving the arm away from the body. If it's isometric, the fibers do not change length. So for example, pushing against a closed door or a wall. Back looking at the muscles of the hand now, you've got something on the inside of your hand, just below the thumb, called the hypothenar eminence, and it's kind of like a bulky area there. And then on the pinky side, a hypothenar eminence. If we take a look at the muscles of the hip, we've got psoas minor. Only 40% of people actually have a psoas minor. The only way you can tell if you have one or not is having an MRI done, magnetic resonance imaging. Then we've got psoas major, just below that. You've got your iliacus in here, and all together they make up the iliopsoas. Tensor fasciae latae is to the top, and then closer to the bottom, you've got what's called an IT band or the iliotibial band. All that is to the lateral or outside. The longest muscle in the human body is right here in your leg, called the sartorius. So the sartorius is the longest muscle, whereas the femur was the longest bone. The muscles that make up the quadricep group, the main one right down the middle here is rectus femoris. Rectus because they go up and down, and on the femur, femoris. On the medial side of the leg, main muscle there is gracilis, and we won't worry too much about pectineus. Gracilis should have the S on the end there. That's on the medial side. Gluteus maximus, that's a big muscle in your butt. It covers everything. But if you were to take off gluteus maximus, you've got medius to the top, and then you've got minimus just underneath. So maximus, medius, and minimus. You've got the muscles of the hip that are adductors, meaning they're going to move your legs back close to your body. So adductor brevis, brevis meaning short, longus meaning long, and magnus meaning big or large. All those together make up the adductor. Your quadricep group has three main muscles. You've got rectus femoris down the middle. Then you've got vastus lateralis to the outside. And then you've got vastus medialis to the inside. And don't forget, there's that longest muscle of your body there, the sartorius. On the back of the thigh, the posterior side, you have the hamstring group. And the three muscles that make up the hamstring group, main one right down the middle here is bicep femoris. Bi meaning two heads, femoris on the femur. Then you've got semitendinosus. And then on the inside, medial, think membranosus. So then you've got your semimembranosus on the inside there. Muscles of the foot, tibialis anterior on the tibia to the front. Goes right down the middle there. That's the main one. Don't worry about extensor digitorum longus, it just extends the digits or the toes. Extensor hallucis longus extends the big toe. So hallucis is your big toe. On the back, the big muscle going all the way down is your gastrocnemius, and then beneath it, or deep, is your soleus. This is your deep muscle, and it gets its name because it looks like the solefish. The big tendon, or the Achilles tendon down the back, is called your calcaneal tendon. And lastly, right behind your kneecap, you've got something called the popliteus. Then you've got your tibialis posterior. And then don't worry about all the digitorum flexes, the digitorium, so the toes. And then flexor hallucis longus flexes big toe. And fibularis or peroneus brevis is on the fibula, and it's the short one. And then longus is a long one. If you have any questions whatsoever about any of these muscles or how to remember them, please don't hesitate to ask. Have a great day.